Okay. Good evening, everybody. You're welcome to this week's Forex Outlook for the 24th to 28th of July 2023, sorry. So without taking so much of your time, just want to confirm, can you guys hear and see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start off. So we're going to look at the economic calendar. The economic calendar for next week is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. We have lots of high impact news for next week. We have FOMC coming in on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a monetary policy and main refinancing rate for the euro. Then we have um, advanced GDP for the US dollar. Then we have is yen's monetary policy statement. They always make it
Okay,
tentative.
what will happen is meeting I will be 11.
They always make it tentative. They always make it tentative, and the next thing you see, you just see the impact. So next week is going to be really, 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 really interesting. So you need to be, you just to be on the safe side, you dial back on your lot sizes to avoid stories that touch. So let's get down now into what we have on our chart. So we're going to start off with NASDAQ, that's US 100. So looking at NASDAQ, on the weekly, we can say that NASDAQ is still looking bullish, but it has come into contact with, there's a structure it has come into contact on the daily. You won't see it on the weekly. You're going to see it on the daily. So if I switch this to candles, you're going to see it here. It's somewhere here. Yes. This fair value gap, if you if you as this to this point, if you extend it, you can see that's where price is rejecting from. Now, this is still bullish, but it's in a retracement. Now we have this fair value gap here. We have this fair value gap here. One candle, one candle. So looking at this area going into the new week, pull back this. So going into the new week is where we basically have price now. Hello? Can you guys still hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So going into the new week, this low has given way, which means that we might see a bit of a correction going into this pair. But as long as 14919 holds, this pair might just be a retracement to continue higher. So if we put in our candles, this is what we have. Now, this low on a daily basis, price must not close below it. If we get a close below this 15381.8 on a daily basis, then price is going to come into this point, because this is what you would call a balanced price range. It's supposed to act as support going forward, because we have one candle down, one candle up. So basically, it's supposed to act as support. If this area gives way, then you're going to see price come into this fair value gap here, and it might move lower. So going into the new week for NAS for US 100, the bias is still slightly to the upside. It's still slightly to the upside as long as price does not go below 15,381. If price goes below there, because what we are looking at is a retracement of a bullish move. So it is a retracement. So we're looking for, you'll be looking for bullish opportunities at this point to continue back to the upside. That's for NASDAQ, or what you call US 100. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the dollar index. We're going to be looking at is the dollar index. Let's keep our mics on mute. If we have noisy background, let's keep our mics on mute, please. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the dollar index. Now, looking at the dollar index, let me put back my chart. We have this swing low here at 89.20 to this swing high at 11.470. And if we look at where price is now, there's a fair value gap here on the weekly. If you notice it, and price is just sitting above the 62%. So on the weekly long-term range, price is at discount on the weekly. Is at discount on the weekly. But if we look at the swings price is making lower lows. So if we go down into the daily time frame, if we move into the daily time frame, we can see that price has broken 100.78 and 101.92. Body closed below these levels. So what we're looking at price is that we might see a retracement. We're basically in a retracement now. And this retracement may move as high as into any of these areas here. That's what we're looking at. Price may move deeply into these areas before continuation to the downside. As you can see, the retracement is already in place. So if we look at this, if this is to continue to the upside, it would need to retrace a bit. It would need to retrace. So you'll be looking at probably something like this. Maybe a retracement because you already have a dealing range here from this low to this swing high. There's a range. So if price retraces probably into this there's a fair value gap here, retraces into it, and the fair value gap holds as support, then you might be looking at price coming into this area here. There's an imbalance here between these 2 points. Not an imbalance, it's not a fair value gap. It's just what you call volume imbalance because there's no candle there. So price will most likely be gunning for this. And if you look at, you have a bearish order block here, and you have here. So price might most likely break this, run up into here. If it gets rejected, then you might see a continuation to the downside. But going into the new week, we're looking at possible continuation to the upside on the dollar index. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is Euro USD. So looking at the Euro USD, just use my it seems to be in an uptrend. This high has been broken, body closed. But if we look at where price is reacting from, it's what you call a volume imbalance. Let me hide everything. You see, between this point and this point, there's just basically there's nobody. You just have wicks. You have body, you have wicks, no body close. And that's what you call a volume imbalance. And you can see price tapped into the top here and responded. So going into the new week for Euro USD, we might see a bit of a retracement. We might be looking at a bit of a retracement it's already in play. So we'll be watching this fair value gap on the daily to act as support, because if you look at your daily range, you have 1.0833 to this high here. So this high at almost let me put back my chart. So this high at 1.1275. So this is your daily range. So since you have this as your daily range, what you're going to do is you put your fib from here to this high, and this is 50%. You have the 50% coming at 1.1054. You watch that level, and you also have this fair value gap here. Consequent, that's the fifth midpoint of this fair value gap has to hold. Worst case, if price drops very low, the low of this fair value gap at 1.1027, price must not break the low. If price closes below this, then we're going to see price come down to this point. But given what we have candle close wise for the Euro USD on the weekly, we might see a deep we might see a retracement into 1.1075. That is the 50% of the daily fair value gap. That's what you call like the midpoint of this fair value gap. Price may retrace deep into there before continuing to the upside. As you can see already on the 4-hour, that's already in play. We have a change of character here. That means price may retrace a bit before continuing back to the upside. So going into the new week, this is what, if price is to continue lower, it needs to rally first. It would rally first into this, there's a fair value gap here. You have fair value gap between this high to this low. So price must not close above this fair value gap, that's 1178, to move lower. But if price decides to drop first into this area, then you know that price is going to come back to these highs. So it depends on what price gives on Monday. And as we know, we have high impact news going into next week. So we'll just wait to see what price does. But I'm of the opinion this might retrace. If it retraces and stays above this point here, it might continue back to the upside. But it's currently in a retracement to the downside. It's currently in a retracement to the downside. We don't have a swing low yet on the 4-hour, which points to the fact that this may retrace a bit lower before continuing back to the upside. The next pair we're going to be looking at is the GBPUSD. Looking at the GBPUSD, this was weekly bullish on the weekly till price ran into this other block here. And see this bearish other block on the weekly. That's where price reacted, and it has given what you would call a bearish engulfing candle on the weekly. A bearish engulfing candle on the weekly, which if we go to our 4-hour time frame, is going to, you can already see the retracement. So looking at this may still retrace a bit lower. But as long as it does not close below 2591, that's this swing low here, this may still continue back to the upside. But if this low here, 2591, is broken, then any retracement will be an opportunity for a sell-off. But going into this new week, this may still move lower. If you look at it on the 4-hour, price is sitting within this bullish order block here, as where price is sitting within. So this may cause a little bit of a bounce. This may cause a bit of a bounce. And if price closes above this high, this high here, if we get something like this, then we might see a continuation, a bullish correction to the upside. But if the low of this bullish order block is broken, then we might see lower prices, probably to sweep this, either of these swing lows here, then price may continue back to the upside. But for now, this may still tilt to the downside. This may still tilt to the downside, as we don't have a bullish swing yet on the 4-hour to confirm a move to the upside. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is gold. Looking at gold long term, if you pick gold, we can see it's on the weekly, price broke this high and is currently in a retracement. If we move down to the daily time frame, we can see that price has taken liquidity above 1985 and is retracing. So this retracement now, how low will it go? I can't say. That's just basically one thing with retracements. How low will it go is what I can't say. But there are two critical points I'm watching. This low, that's 1954, and this fair value gap here. Those are 2 points that should be of interest going into the new week. So if we go to the 4-hour time frame and pull back our candles, price needs to stay above this zone. Staying above this zone will see price move higher. But if this 1945.84 is broken by price, that's if price breaks below this level here, then we're going to see price maybe come into this structure point here. But for now, this is a retracement. As long as it stays above 1954 to 1959, there's a possibility it may continue to the upside. That's for gold. Gold is still bullish for now, as long as it stays above 1945.84. So this might just be a retracement for a continuation back to the upside, probably into this fair value gap here on the 4-hour time frame. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is EURGBP. EURGBP is looking, order flow on the weekly is bearish. We have a body close below 85.47. That's for the weekly. If you look at the daily, we're having price reacted from this bullish order block, bullish fair value gap, as you can see on the daily. Price reacted from it, and we now have what looks like a breaker. We have a low, we have a high, lower low, and a higher high. So there's a possibility this may retrace as far as into this point here. We might see price retracing. Where price is now is a range. Let me go to my next chart. So this chart only has my annotation so that I'll be able to explain further for the EURGBP. So looking at the EURGBP now, let me break it down a little bit. We have a range. This single-bodied candle. If you notice, it contained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days worth of activity before the low was spiked. Price didn't close below it, spiked back inside. So if you notice, last week, price got to the 50% of this range candle. Hit it the first time, dropped, came back, hit it the second time, and dropped. Now, going into the new week, this may retrace a bit. You know, we have rate news for EURGBP for the euro on Thursday. So for this to continue pushing to the upside, because if we look at it on the weekly, if you look at it on the weekly is a bullish formation. Look at it on the weekly is a bullish formation. It's a bullish formation. So we might see a bit of a retracement if we go to the 4-hour time frame. We might see a bit of a retracement, but that retracement, for it to continue bullish, price needs to hold above 86.27. Price needs to hold above this level. Once price stays above this level, then it's going to continue higher. So if you want to continue in the bullish run on this pair, then you'll be waiting for your longs at this level. And even if you use your fib to find the range, that's the equilibrium of the range, you can see it spiked the 50. So within this area, and you can see it's at the 62% of the weekly range. So this is where you'll be looking for an opportunity to go long on the EURGBP. So the EURGBP, we might see bullish run going into the new week because they have a rate news coming in on Thursday. The next one we're going to be looking at is the GBPCHF. Looking at this pair, we can basically see on the weekly it's in a consolidation. You can just see basically it's in a consolidation from this point to this point. That's just where price is. Price is just consolidating within those two levels. If you notice also, price took out liquidity here and dropped. So most likely, this might be the target going into this week for price. That's this low here. So if we go down to we can also see what price this is. So if we switch to our candles and see that price is having a bit of a pause here. So we might see a bit of a retracement because this is in a range. We might see a bit of a retracement. How high the retracement will go, maybe either of these two fair value gaps here. If they act as resistance, then we might see price sweep 1.1027 going into the new week on GBPCHF. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the yen pairs. Looking at the yen pairs, these guys are still very bullish. They're still very, very bullish. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, EURGBP is in a pound yen is more like in a range. It's more like in a range. We have this range high here on the 4-hour, and we have this range low here. This is more in a range. So if we get a break above 83.17, then the bullish run might continue. But given that price has closed above 2.29, if you're going to join the bullish run, you'll be watching this for our fair value gap here to hold. If it holds, then we might see a continuation to the upside. Or worst case, price may sweep this low, leave 179.48 intact, then sweep the liquidity above 183.17. So you'll be waiting to see something like this. Something like this on price. Is what you'll be waiting to see on price going into the new week on the G pound yen. Then the last but not the least is euro yen. Well, euro yen is clearly bullish, but I believe, as you can see, there might be a retracement. There might be a retracement going into the new week because price is coming into this almost what looks like equal highs here. So if what I would prefer, if this is to continue bullish, is a retracement. A retracement here into this, and then price will now target 158, this high, or probably any structure point higher. But if price rallies first, let me pick this up from my annotation charts. On the weekly of this pair, we have a fair value gap, a very big fair value gap. We have a big fair value gap here. That's from this point to this point. This is a consequent encroachment of that weekly fair value gap. And if we come in here, price has not yet touched it. You see, so going into the new week, a retracement would be okay. Price a retracement. That's if price does not start off rallying. You get, because if it's to continue bullish, it may retrace a bit. And if it's going to retrace, you'll be watching this point here. That's this 4-hour fair value gap. Then if price is going to rally, it will target the 50% of the weekly fair value gap that comes in at 158.09, then 158.64. That's if it goes above this with momentum, then 159.20. So that does it for this week. So that does it for this week. So remember, we have high impact news going into this new week. So if you're trading this week, you need to dial back on your lot sizes, or you just basically use this week to just watch and observe. So with that done, said and done, I wish everybody a beautiful night's sleep and beautiful weekend and a blessed trading week ahead. So thank you all for taking your time to attend. Good night, everybody.